Let's be honest. We all procrastinate. Put off doing things that we know we should do. Sometimes it's something small like taking out the trash or doing the dishes. Other times it's something big, like finishing a project at work or studying for an exam. Procrastination can feel good when I'm putting off something boring, like doing the dishes or cleaning the toilet. But how does it feel good when I'm procrastinating on something important like studying for an exam or finishing a project at work? Well, let me explain. When was the last time you procrastinated? How did you feel? I'm guessing you felt pretty good. Well, now you need to understand that this dopamine hit is actually a form of positive reinforcement. What does that mean? Well, when we do something and we get a reward for it, we're more likely to do it again in the future. And the first step to do that is to make your to-do list too easy. By setting a timer, you're essentially committing to a certain amount of time, and our brains love commitments. Just think about it for a second. When was the last time you committed to something? How did you feel? I'm guessing you felt pretty motivated. It's because our brains love commitments. When we commit to something, we're essentially telling ourselves that we're going to do it no matter what, and that's a really powerful motivator. So, try setting a timer the next time you need to do something. Commit to a certain amount of time and see how much more motivated you are to do the task. What does that mean? Let's say you have to clean your house. This is another great way to reduce procrastination. When you're working on a task, it's important to remove all distractions so that you can focus on the task at hand. Distractions can be anything from your phone to TV to social media. They all produce dopamine in our brain, which can cause us to procrastinate. By removing distractions, you're essentially reducing the amount of dopamine you're exposed to, which means that you're less likely to procrastinate. If you write down clean the house as your to-do item, it's very easy to procrastinate on that. By understanding this, we can take steps to reduce our procrastination. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. These include breaking down our to-do lists into smaller tasks, setting a timer, and removing distractions. By following these tips, we can trick our brain into not wanting that dopamine hit and focus on the task at hand. But if you break it down into smaller tasks, it's much harder to procrastinate. For example, if you write down clean the house, you can easily put it off because it seems like a big, daunting task. But if you break it down into smaller tasks like clean the kitchen, clean the bathroom, vacuum the living room, it's much harder to procrastinate because those tasks are much easier to complete. And when you complete a task, no matter how small, your brain releases dopamine. So by breaking down your tasks into smaller chunks, you're essentially tricking your brain into giving you more dopamine hits throughout the day, which means that you're less likely to procrastinate on those tasks. This is called positive reinforcement. And it's the same thing that happens when you train a dog. If you give a dog a treat every time it sits on command, the dog is more likely to sit on command in the future. The dopamine hit that we get when we procrastinate is a form of positive reinforcement. It's our brain saying, hey, this feels good. Let's do it again next time. That's why it's so hard to break the cycle of procrastination. Our brain is literally hardwired to do it. It's because your brain was releasing dopamine, the same hormone that's released when you do something pleasurable. How do you do that? I'll tell you right after this. And even though we know that procrastination is bad for us, we still do it. Why is that? And dopamine is the same hormone that's released when we do something pleasurable like eating a delicious meal or having sex. So when we procrastinate, our brain gets a little hit of dopamine, which makes us feel good. Now obviously this isn't a substitute for the real thing. Like nothing is as pleasurable as eating a delicious meal or having sex, but it's still pretty good. And that's why we keep doing it. Well, it turns out that there are some very good reasons why we procrastinate. And in this video, I want to talk about one of them, which is that sometimes procrastination actually feels good. Yes, you heard that right. Procrastination can feel good. In fact, it can feel really, really good. And that's why we do it, even though we know that we shouldn't. Like, where did you get this idea that when we procrastinate, our brain releases dopamine? Well, I didn't make it up. There's actually a lot of scientific evidence to support this claim. For example, in a study published in the Journal of Neuroscience, researchers found that when people procrastinated on a task, their brain released dopamine in the area that controls reward and motivation. Another study published in the same journal found that the more people procrastinated, the more dopamine they released. And a third study, which was published in the journal Biological Psychology, found that people who were able to procrastinate more had higher levels of dopamine in their cerebrospinal fluid. So yeah, there's a lot of evidence to support this claim. So if you want to better understand your procrastination, then keep watching, because by the end of this video, you will know why procrastination can feel so darn good. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, doctor, I get it. See, when we procrastinate, our brain releases a hormone called dopamine. But wait a second, you might be thinking, aren't you just making up stuff? And if you don't believe me, just think about it for a second. Okay, so now you're probably thinking, great, doctor, now what? So if you want to break the cycle of procrastination, you need to trick your brain into not wanting that dopamine hit. All right, now that you understand how dopamine plays a role in procrastination, it's time to learn how to trick your brain into not wanting that dopamine hit. Second, set a timer. This is another great way to trick your brain into not wanting that dopamine hit. And third, remove distractions. In conclusion, procrastination can feel good because it tricks our brain into releasing dopamine, which is the same hormone that's released when we do something pleasurable. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it.